Patriots.
Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of Vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
On this episode of MTP, we recap Week 10 in the NFL, including Odell Beckham Jr. signing with the LA Rams, teams forgetting how many overtimes there are, and sorry NFL, but it looks like the Patriots are back. This is Missing the Point, episode 96, but it's all relative.
Welcome into Missing the Point. I'm Joe Malkin, and he's Mike Marcangelo. As always, Craig is on with us as well. I think Craig has only ever missed 2 episodes of this entire show. And even when he does, he still does all the behind-the-scenes work and manages our social media and manages our story. You know what, Craig? You don't get paid enough. You deserve a day off. Get out of here.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Then actually,
He gets paid too much.
some would say he gets paid too much. We don't know who pays him, but he gets paid too much.
Correct.
So we're here to talk to you about Week 10 of the NFL season and maybe some non-NFL topics if we can get there within the allotted time that we allot for ourselves and that the podcast community tells us we should allot, because after a certain point, we should just stop talking. So, Mike, let's get into the Patriots game because we are based in New England. And when you and I were talking earlier today, before we recorded, you had brought up you said some things that kind of brought back some talking points for me from other interviews and other episodes and other points that you had made. And I know that you expected us to go first to Mac, but I want to go on the other side of the ball.
Yep.
And go to Matthew Judon.
Yeah.
And the reason why I want to go to Matthew Judon is because of your comments with Carrie Ian about Matthew Judon being compared to Adelius Thomas. And so far, he has panned out much better. However, Adelius Thomas also had a good first year with the Patriots. But a big difference that I think we've seen with Judon is that Judon has stepped in and become a leader in that locker room within just a few weeks of the regular season, and probably before that too. So, I mean, we're looking at right now they're a top 5 overall, but what do you think about Matthew Judon now that we've seen him for 10 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy that the ghost of Adelius Thomas is not coming back to haunt me. I thought it was going to. And I think Judon early on, like when we started out 2-4, we could have been, that record can be argued. We could have been more wins, whatever.
Sure.
The reason that we had those wins was strictly because of him on the defensive side of the ball, right? I think he's been such a disrupting force. And he, like you said, he's been a field general. And I think whatever we are paying him, it's a bargain. Every play that he's on there for, you notice him. You can't help but notice him. And I think it's been, such a long time. And actually, it feels like a long time, but it probably really hasn't, since we had such an assertive pass rusher on the Patriots. I also think, this makes me question the entire Adelius Thomas take. I think, what Karen had said on that interview, and, again, show notes, is he often just went off book, right? Like, he did not run the scripted plays that the 2007 Bill Belichick defense had drawn out for him. And when you had that many Hall of Famers on it, I get it why you have to script it out. But I think Bill on this defense in this year and in this time has just said, listen, we need you to be you. So your job is to kill the quarterback. Do it. That's it. And I think he's done an amazing job. I love that he's here. I hope that he is productive the rest of the season as he has been so far. But, say what you want about Bill Belichick and drafting, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I have some things I want to air out. But in terms of free agents, he knows how to get great defensive help help from the free agent market on the trade market.
Yeah, it's interesting you mention that because I think for a long time, Bill Belichick as a defensive coordinator, which as defensive coordinator, he was a part of 2 Super Bowl victories with the New York Giants in the 80s. And now we see him basically acting as that. But you're right? Like they always brought in guys to do a job. And really not since Rodney Harrison has he kind of had a guy and said, we just need you to be you, like you just said. But I also think what they did with Harrison that they're now doing with Judon is he's building that defense around them, and any deficiencies and holes that they would leave open from the position that they're coming from have been backfilled in other positions. I think, and I want to get to the free agent signings and the draft too, so we'll get there next. But somebody who, and speaking of the draft, somebody who's really stood out to me on that defense as well is Christian Barmore.
Yep.
Who has he's phenomenal. I mean, and we're talking about, and I always want to bring it back down to earth because we're talking about free agent signings and a team that is only 10 weeks into this new identity that they have. Now, granted, it's still the old identity, right? It's still the old guard, the Bill Belichick style team, but they have this new identity and it shows. And what really showed to me and something that I noticed on Sunday that I haven't noticed much this year. And I watched this Patriots team come out of the tunnel on Sunday, and there was something different about them. And I think what it was is that they finally started to click. Everything's working. They know that they've gone out and drafted well, which again, we'll get to. They know that they've gone out and brought in a lot of free agents who are panning out, which we'll get to. And I think everything has started to mesh and they've loosened up a little bit. And what I mean by that is the first 5 home games of the season, when Mac Jones would run out of the tunnel at Gillette Stadium, he'd get to the 50-yard line, he'd stop, he'd get his helmet from whatever equipment guy was there, put it on and start throwing a football. This week, they introduced the starting defense, and all 46 active players got into a huddle and started jumping around and looked like they were having a good time. Something you see at a high school or college level. And they looked like a lot of the other NFL teams that we watch every Sunday, and they were doing something different. Anyway, it was just a lot of fun to watch. And then they went out and did what they did. Now, great. Cleveland marched down the field on the first drive, and then Myles Garrett came in and sacked Mac Jones on the first offensive drive. And I can only look at it and see how the game panned out and say it's drawn up that way.
Yeah. You literally just took the words out of my mouth, dude. I was going to say, Belichick never loves to give up points, but that first sack on Mac Jones, that was a sacrificial sack. What I mean by that is he wanted to see what he needed to do and what Cleveland was going to be doing all game, because I think, we all give Belichick a ton of crap all the time, but he makes really awesome adjustments mid-game, right? Always.
On the fly, absolutely.
On the fly, first quarter, it doesn't matter. So he was like, oh, they're just going to send Myles Garrett out there. Cool. What we're going to do is we're going to run screens at Myles Garrett. And then what? Because we know how to protect against Jadeveon Clowney. We did it when he was in Houston with J.J. Watt on the other side, with Will Fork in the middle. This isn't that. So we understand how to do that. And I think, to your point about this feeling like a different Patriots team, or they feel different than they have in weeks past, I think it's 2 things. The first thing is, if you look at the 2-4 record, Mac Jones had to play out of his mind to get them to win, right? And even in the games that they lost early in the season, he played well, and it still wasn't enough for them to win. I think that was probably hanging over his head. Like, what else do I need to do? The defense probably felt that a little bit. But I think the most important piece, I said it a couple weeks ago, and we talked about it, now after this 45-7 win, Belichick, not Steven, Bill is coaching the defense. This is a Bill Belichick defense. It's a bend, not break, opportune defense that we were not seeing And, Gerard Mayo might be a great head coach someday. I think he probably will be. Stephen Belichick is just a sperm coach. That's the only reason he's there is because his daddy's the head coach. That's it. But you can see the difference now. Mac is going out of his mind for the entire game, right? They're having great drives. Belichick's not talking to him. He's the entire game. He's focusing on the defense. And that tells me that he still has what it takes to game plan and to coach up his defense based on what he has. And I'm not sitting here saying that they're going to win the Super Bowl or anything, but if he's doing that and they are responding and offensively, they're not making mistakes, they're not shooting themselves in the foot, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Going back to the Myles Garrett sack, after that sack, they neutralized him the rest of the game. That was the only time you heard his name. And I wanted to make sure of that before I said that, but I'm looking at the numbers right now. He had 1 tackle, a sack. That was it. And you're absolutely right about the defense. It is a Bill Belichick coach defense, and you can see it in the style of play. You've seen J.C. Jackson elevate his play. Jalen Mills is playing his role. Christian has been outstanding. Matthew Judon, even Juwan Bentley has been incredible. Yeah, I mean, 8 and 9 fly around that field like bats out of hell. They're just fun to watch. The secondary has been good. Kyle Duggar has been phenomenal. Devin McCourty has been great. For his age and what he's been asked to do, he's been great. I think he's been average overall, but to quarterback that defense the way he does, or at least the secondary, he's been very good. And then on the offensive side, I think a big thing is that they were just trying to get the kid comfortable and see what they had. And, sometimes it's good not to take the Corvette out and go pedal to the metal right away. You have to, you got to grease the skids a little bit, and you got to give it time. Herman Boone once said, it's like Novocaine. Eventually it works. And that's kind of paraphrasing the paraphrasing of the quote, but they've been fun to watch. And when you have Mac Jones come out and play the way he did on Sunday and finally look like he's having fun, they let him loose a little bit, and he's saying all the right things, he's doing all the right things, and the team is finally clicking. So with that said, let's talk about the draft, because I think we both have a little bit to say about this draft. But of course, Mac Jones drafted in the first round, Christian Barmore drafted in the second round, Rhamonde Stevenson drafted in the fourth round. I mean, Mike, what are your thoughts on this year's draft?
Overall, I think that this is one of Belichick's best drafts. I think, obviously Mac Jones, it astonishes me, but not really, because we talked about it before, like in our post-draft show. I know for a moral certainty that Belichick was calling, like he was that source saying that the Rams are going to, or that the 49ers are going to take Mac Jones, number 3 overall. That was him. He was just throwing out all these different feelers just to see like who in the league is stupid, right? And everyone that did not take Mac Jones after Trevor Lawrence was selected and needed a quarterback is an idiot. That's what he's proven. He's not, he doesn't have a cannon of an arm, but again, I'm not comparing the two, but it's our most relevant comparison. Look back at 01, 02, 03. Brady wasn't throwing as hard, as far as he is now. So I think that they can grow into it. I also, if you just really look at what the things that we've always talked about for Belichick in drafting is stop trading down, trade up, right? Or draft a quarterback. You know what? It turns out I might have been wrong, and we all might have been wrong about wanting him to select a quarterback to learn under Brady. Because maybe that was never going to be a realistic possibility, because you never knew how long Brady was going to play for. Maybe you should have stacked the team around Brady and extend his time here, whatever. But in this draft, Christian Barmore, right? I mean, he traded his second round and 2 fourth rounds just to move up 8 spots to get him. Mm-hmm. That is the most un-Belichickian thing to do, because he loves those 4th round picks, man. He moved them to make sure that he could get his guy, because there was no reason that Barmore fell. I think he may have had some off-field issues in college that were never really described. And I think he underperformed on the aptitude test at the combine? But overall, I also think sorry, this is a long rant. I also think that we talk a lot about Belichick not being able to draft offensive talent. I think Craig and Ray said that the last time I was on. It might have been, I'll just blame Ray because he's not here. You can defend yourself, Craig, so I don't want to go after you. But the one position offensively that Belichick has hit on 80% of the time is running back, right? 2021, Rhamonde Stevenson. I'd say he did pretty well.
He hit.
Yep. So we'll go 2019, Damian Harris. I'd say that's a hit. 2018, Sony Michel. Say what you want. He was a big factor in that playoff run in 2018.
Absolutely.
I think we can call that, if not a hit, it's a wash, right? James White, 2014. That's a hit. Huge hit. 2013. I mean, I'm just going to go through it until 2001, so just bear with me. I want you to hear the names that are on this list. 2013, didn't draft a running back. 2012, no running backs. 2011, Shane Vereen, hit.
Yeah, he did pretty well for a little while.
It's amazing. He went to the Giants after the Patriots and just, whoop, gone.
Stephen Ridley, fumbled a lot, man, but
had 1,000-yard season.
Yeah, I'd say he was a hit. So if you just think about all the people, we're only at 2009. So there are others that earlier in the 2000s that he missed on. But I think he's drafted 10 running backs. I'd say 8 of them, 7 of them are hits. That is a phenomenal track record. And it also shows you, my last point of it, you never need to overpay a running back. Ever. It highlights if your best player is a running back, you will never win a Super Bowl argument more than anything, because again, I'm not saying that they're disposable, but they're kind of fucking disposable, right? If you get someone that fills your need and fits your scheme, they will do what you need them to do.
James White, Kevin Clarke, Shane Vereen.
Yeah, none of these people are Hall of Famers, but they were all 1,000-yard rushers at least, or they all had 35 catches for 400 yards as out of the backfield.
Right.
So I think we have never given him the credit that he deserves in terms of his draft history and draft record for running backs. And I'm here to tell you, if there's one guy that you want drafting a running back because he'll never overpay for it when their contract is up, and you always know that he can cycle him back in, it's Bill Belichick.
Which, if we look at, and this is where we're going to cross from draft into free agency, which is why look at the length of every free agent that was signed this offseason, 4 or 5 years. Because how long is a rookie contract for a first-round quarterback?
4th or 5th.
Right, 4th or the 5th. So Stevenson being a 4th-round pick, I don't think carries that many years, but that doesn't mean he can't. And that doesn't mean that you can't sell the team the way it's being constructed.
Yep.
To him, Rhamonde Stevenson was, and Craig and I have been high on him since week 1 of the preseason. I love the way the kid runs. He understands the game of football. He understands where the holes are and to go hit the hole. Very rarely do you see 38 for the Patriots go somewhere that he shouldn't go. It happens. I mean, it's going to happen. Holes close. Guys get blocked into them. Fine. It happens. But this kid runs hard, and he runs really well, and he's fun to watch, and he can catch passes out of the backfield if you absolutely need him to. He's probably not going to. Like, that's going to be the Brandon Bolden type of guy, which, listen, say what you want about Brandon Bolden.
I will.
The guy he's been a big special teams contributor for this team, and he has stepped in where he is needed. He's not going to come in and be James White. He's not that level. And James White on many other teams might be like Shane Vereen, but Brandon Bolden's going to get the job done for you. So to go kind of cross the draft again, why did he draft Rhamonde Stevenson and not a wide receiver? Because Bill Belichick doesn't draft well with wide receivers. He drafts defense and he drafts running backs. And I mean, so far with quarterbacks, I mean, I would say that Brady was a hit. I mean, he's done all right. Mac Jones, so far, again, we're 10 weeks in, and this is another thing that we have to do is that we're 10 weeks in. This team is 6-4. They haven't won a Super Bowl. They haven't won a playoff game. They haven't done anything since Tom Brady left. So let's give it more time. But where they sit right now, they need to keep this up and continue to move forward. So looking at the guys that they brought in otherwise, I mean, Kendrick Bourne, another guy that I've been saying you have to utilize Kendrick Bourne more. Well, I mean, Bill Belichick knows what he's doing because he's utilizing Kendrick Bourne more in the run game and in the passing game, and that catch that he had for that touchdown, which happened right in front of me in Gillette Stadium, was it was almost a catch of the season type of catch.
It's a ballsy throw too. That's, it's because he trusted his guy to go up and get it.
Right. And that's another thing that has come with 10 weeks of playing with each other now, right? Is 10 weeks. Look at the touchdown throw he threw to Hunter Henry in the corner of the end zone. Rookie quarterbacks don't make that throw. And I'm not saying that because this is Mac Jones and the New England Patriots. Rookie quarterbacks don't make that throw. They just don't.
Yeah.
That's a big boy throw. And he made a lot of big boy throws on Sunday afternoon. And, he had the touchdown to Hunter Henry in the Dallas game that he had to go up and, basically caught at the apex. I mean, these Hunter Henry touchdowns have been incredible. I know, Mike, I wasn't going to bring it up.
Just do it already. Just do it already.
But there's no reason. See, this is where I think you're like, you got to come at me. And it's like, we don't, because sure, you thought Judon Smith was going to be the better of the two tight ends.
No, that's not it, though. That's not it. For context purposes, because you're being nice. I get it's because you're a little boosted right now. But I said I would much rather have Judon Smith. He's more durable. He's stronger. He's faster than Hunter Henry, that's 6'5", 200 and nothing, made of glass tight end that will not do anything for you. I was wrong.
We love big lumbering tight ends here in New England, though. It's the Rob Gronkowski, Ben Coates. Give me a big, lumbering tight end that can do a little bit of everything and make athletic plays. And you know what? We all said it. I mean, you were absolutely right about him. He was made of glass, but this year you've been wrong, and that's okay. And because we mention it every week in our Discord. Every time the Patriots win, we're one win closer to Anthony Treish's prediction for the Patriots for the season. Well, he said 4 to 5 wins. They now have 6.
I'll defend him on that. We did that interview before they even drafted Mac Jones.
Sure, absolutely. And we had that conversation with him about who the quarterback was going to be, and I believe he said Cam Newton. And at that point,
here we go again.
It was, right. So, we're going to get to him too. But
great.
Just such a good win for the Patriots over the Browns. It's probably their best win of the season so far. They've played very good teams very well. They played Tampa well. The only 2 games they really did not play well were New Orleans and Houston. And they still won the Houston game.
Miami. You should that loss.
Now.
It looks a little better now because they beat the Ravens, right? But I mean, when Miami lost to the Jaguars, I was like that. And so, Ray said it too. That is getting worse and worse every single, 2-2 against really good teams so far. I won't say the Browns are really good, but they were 5-4 coming in.
They're above average.
Yeah. They're building on something. A 4-game win streak is, if we were to have this conversation after 6 games when they're 2-4, if we were to look at their schedule and say they're going to win 4 in a row, not many people would have said, I think they are. And in typical Patriot fashion, the season is opening up for them. Now, we can talk a little bit about this, but Derrick Henry, he's out, not going to play for the Titans. Calvin Ridley and oh my God, what
Kyle
is
Pitts?
No, I think he's going to play. Who was there? Who?
Cordell Patterson.
Patterson. Of course, now he's a factor.
Now he's out. This is always what happened in the 2010 through 2014 era, where we didn't win a Super Bowl, but we got to a couple. The season just opened up. So let's see what they can do and capitalize on it.
Well, that's the biggest thing here, right? Thursday is almost a trap game against the Falcons because it's you can't go down there on a short week and lose. Now, granted, they got smoked by Dallas on Sunday, so they're not doing very well either. But following Atlanta, you have 4 pretty tough games.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at a Tennessee team that is still winning football games. You got the Falcons.
What I would just say about that is Belichick has always been able to beat Tannehill when he's their best weapon. He's always had a hard time beating a Tannehill-led team when there's a supplemental weapon. So if he knows that all he has to do is just really focus on making Tannehill make a mistake, I think we'll be okay, because that Tennessee defense isn't what it was 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, there's a real chance that game is, one of those 21-17, 21-18 games. And if that's the case, I like the Patriots odds because, again, our defense is not stellar in any category besides points allowed, which is, they're ranked right behind the Bills. But they're, again, as long as Bill Belichick is calling the plays and has his hand on that defense, and Mac, he doesn't, the thing is, he doesn't have to play like he did on Sunday every game. He really doesn't. If he does 75% of that, they'll win.
Yeah. With the defense and the way the defense is playing, and it's when I said that there's going to be a tough stretch for the Patriots afterwards, or after the Falcons game, it actually not only opens up in terms of kind of injuries for other teams, it also opens up in days between games. So the Patriots will play against the Falcons on Thursday night in week 11.
Yep.
Week 12, they're a Sunday afternoon game against the Titans at 1:00. Then they don't play again until the following Monday night in Buffalo. Then it's their bye week. Then they're back for the Colts on the road, and then Buffalo here. So they do have some tough opponents coming up. But in the Bills and the Colts, basically, I wouldn't call Atlanta, but knock on wood, because any given Thursday, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, things open up, and you're right. Mac doesn't have to play out of his mind. And again, as you mentioned earlier, it's our closest and fairest comp. Tom Brady didn't throw for 350 yards, 300 yards every game in the 2001, 2003, and 2004 seasons, but they made it work. And you don't, if you have a good defense, if you have an able running game, and you have a quarterback that can put the ball where it needs to be with receivers that can catch the football, which seems to be something that they've figured out, you can win games and win Super Bowls. Troy Aikman did it. Why can't Mac Jones?
Well, because he's a rookie. No rookie's ever won a Super Bowl before. But I do think...
Time changer.
I do think, the talent that is around Mac, I'm just really impressed with it. I'm happy about it.
There's 4 big stories in the NFL coming out of week 10. Mike, pick a number 1 through 4.
2.
Number 2. The number 2 story in the NFL, or at least, well, I would say it's an NFL story, but also here in New England, was Cam Newton re-signing with his old team, the Carolina Panthers. He re-signs. It basically is said that PJ Walker is going to be the starter. We all saw it. Craig sent it to us. And then Cam Newton basically starts and plays the whole game. He threw for a touchdown. He ran for a touchdown. He also got a 15-yard penalty on the rushing touchdown. And Twitter went nuts when he got this penalty. And they were, I can't believe they gave him an excessive celebration penalty for taking on this helmet. Friends, family, loved ones. You cannot do that. It does not matter if your name is Cam Newton, Tom Brady, Colin Kaepernick, Michael Vick. It doesn't matter what your name is or what, it's a penalty. It's a 15-yard penalty. It gets called all the time. And I think Cam knew what he was getting into. So besides the point, what do you think of Cameron Newton re-signing with his old team and helping them win a game this weekend?
He's a guy that has enough talent to be on an NFL roster. He should be. And the things that kept him off of it, it looks like he did what he needed to do. So good for him. I loved that everyone knew on that first touchdown that he scored that he was going to run it. They couldn't stop it. They just could not stop it. I think he's a good story. And I think he does a lot for a locker room. I think he loves Carolina. I think he loves the city of Charlotte. And so I hope that he's really successful.
Absolutely.
I will say, though, I'm a big PJ Walker fan, big XFL guy, and he was the MVP of that league before it got cut short. And despite the fact that Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey are obviously the stories of that game, PJ Walker, 22 of 29, 167 yards. Pretty good.
And they beat a pretty good team too. I mean, a depleted team, but they beat a team that should be pretty good.
I mean, they beat Colt McCoy without DeAndre Hopkins. I mean,
James, listen, as long as James Conner is running well for my fantasy team, I don't really care what's going on there in Arizona. So just real quick to go back to the Cam Newton part, and I echo your sentiment about Cam Newton. I hope he does well there. Wouldn't it be funny if he led that team to the playoffs or helped lead that team to the playoffs? That would just be funny. But also what's funny to me, Mike, is that not only PJ Walker, but the fact that the Carolina Panthers moved on from Cam Newton. They thought they had their next guy in who was
Bridgewater.
that? No, it was Allen. And then they signed Bridgewater. It was the Allen kid they thought could have, and then they said, we're bringing in Bridgewater. They brought in Bridgewater. That didn't work out. They shipped him off to Denver, are paying $7.5 million of his salary. They trade for Sam Darnold, who's on his rookie contract still, so he's only getting paid like $900,000. Then they go on and sign PJ Walker, who's also only making $900,000. And then they say, well, let's go sign Cam Newton for $4.5 million. So really, they spent a lot of money to mismanage their quarterback position, and I find that absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the opposite of what we were talking about for the Patriots, right? Like, running backs are disposable. Quarterbacks are not. You have to hit on it. You have to be really sure about it, or else you're going to be in a situation where you're paying $14 million right now for a quarterback, one of which isn't even on the team. Like you said, $7 million for Bridgewater to go and get hurt or lead Denver to a win or a loss against the Eagles. I mean, it's a fireable offense to miss that often. I was surprised by Sam Darnold at the beginning of the season.
No, he came back down to earth real quick.
Yeah, I think that's his peak. I think you saw him at his peak, and I don't think that his peak is sustainable.
So your next number is 3, huh?
3.
The number 3 is Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers losing to the Washington football team 29-19, and Tom Brady throwing 2 interceptions in the first quarter. And that story in that game had Gillette Stadium all a Twitter, because everyone wanted to talk about how Mac was playing well and Brady was throwing picks and losing to Washington. And lost to a Washington team that did not have Chase Young in the second half, and he's torn his ACL, which is awful for him and for the NFL because he's just a transcendent player. But Brady and the Bucs fall to 6-4, losing to Washington.
That division is wide open too
For Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like, we all remember last year, again, remember, the Buccaneers were 7-5 before they went on their run. Now, a lot of things went well. Their defense stood up, and their defense is terrible this year. They brought back every single starter from the Super Bowl, and they're just terrible, right? But, like this game, I think it's easy to paint the narrative like Brady blew it. Yeah, and sure, he did. Sure. But he's always had those teams that he just doesn't do well against. And if you really look at it, before they changed their name, Washington was never a good team for Brady to go against, even when he was a Patriot. When they won, there was one win in the 2007 season when they blew them out. But when you go back in maybe 2011, like, they're close. 2004, they're close. So and Brady always played, like a mortal in Miami. So, that happens. Every quarterback has a team that they have a hard time against. I think, in this case, if Brady does not play the way that we all expect him to play, Tampa Bay does not have the coach to elevate them. We said this last year. That was my first blog ever when we had a podcast. It is saying, he was great, but everyone else around him was also coached great. So they knew where to be. Arians gets exposed for what he is as a coach in games like this because everybody's freelancing, man. Everybody. Nobody has any direction. It's really hard to get them to do what you want them to do or what you think they're supposed to do. And that might be the downfall of this team. I will also say, though, I do expect the Bucs to still win 12 games.
Absolutely. And they're going to win 12 games. They're going to be in the playoffs because they do have the team. Now, granted, they have no Gronkowski and they have no Antonio Brown right now, which kind of rounds out that wide receiving core or the weapons for Tom. And then the defense has just been bad, but that doesn't mean that they can't. I mean, there's a lot of season left. You got to remember, we're in week 10 of 18. I mean, there's a lot of season left here. Teams still have 7 games to play, 8 in some cases, who have already had a bye week. So, yeah, they'll have 12 games, but it was very interesting to see that they lost. And what was really ballsy is that Riverboat Ron went out and with 9 minutes left in the game and only up 4 points, he goes for it on 4th down and scores a touchdown, knowing full well, I either got to score and put this game out of reach or I'm giving the ball back to Tom Brady with 8 minutes only down 4. And it was a button that if it fails, he looks like a dummy, but it didn't. And he looks like a genius. And it was a very well-coached game from Washington, and they played well, and they did what they needed to do to get it done.
Yeah, I think Riverboat Ron bites himself more often than it actually works for him. But you got to love the fact that, at least in this situation, it feels like, he can rally that team. I don't know what it is. Because if you look at you never look back at him and say he's a great motivator. He's not like a Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin can actually motivate an entire team to do whatever they need to do. Say what you want about him as a coach. I often do. He's a great motivator. I think Ron Rivera, this is the perfect team for him. They're just gutsy, right? And they're not conventional. They don't have 5, stars in that team. They have 2. They have Chase Young and Terry McLaurin, and that literally is it. But Taylor Heineke, 26 of 32, 256 and a touchdown. That's impressive. And we saw flashes of that in their division or in the wild card game last year. That kid is fearless.
Yeah, he can manage games and he can make the throws that need to be made. He's not great, but dare I say he's better than Sam Darnold.
Yeah, he's sustainable.
He's sustainable. That's a good word for it. He's sustainable. And, when Fitzpatrick went down last year in the playoffs and again this year, he stepped in and does his job. And I think Riverboat Ron, I think Ron Rivera is a motivator. I think he has a different approach, but I think he does. And I mean, anybody that is diagnosed with cancer and then still coaches throughout all the treatments during a COVID season, I mean, I would go and run through walls for that guy right now.
Yeah.
I think that's just the type of guy he's tough as nails. And I think his players are like, all right, man, this guy's got our back. We're going to get his kind of thing. All right. You got 2 choices left.
Yeah. I'm going to go with 4.
We're going to go with 4. All right. So the 4th one, crap, I forgot what it was again. So we had the 4th one was the Pittsburgh Steelers, Leah's Pittsburgh Steelers. If you don't know who Leah is, that's Dave Clarke's fiance, tying with the Detroit Lions 16-16 this week, which erases any possibility of a Lions 0-17 season. And it puts the Steelers at 5-3-1 in overall and second in the division behind Baltimore, I believe still, because Cincinnati and Cleveland have kind of fallen off. Surprise, surprise in Ohio. Yeah. But a tie in the NFL, which they've become common in the last 10 to 15 years. Of course, Najee Harris, the rookie running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, had no idea that you could tie in the NFL, which, again, Donovan McNabb did the same thing. It's how do you guys not know the rules of the game that you play?
Well, I mean, it is stupid. I mean, it is ridiculous.
Why? Settle it in 60 minutes. And if you can't settle it in 60 minutes, here's 10 more. Figure it out, or you don't.
Listen, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this game. I couldn't care any less about either of the teams. neither team wanted to win, and that was evident based off of the of overtime. Like that was like watching the XFL back in 2001. It was a terrible football product. So yeah, would I have loved for the Steelers to lose? Sure, because I hate them. I absolutely hate the Steelers. Sorry, Leah. Nothing personal. And, that's really it. I don't have a horse in that race. So great, they tied. I hope both teams tie every game for the rest of the season.
And then we'll change the rules because there's too many ties. That's how this works. So the number one story in football, the one you didn't pick, was Odell Beckham Jr. leaving the Cleveland Browns and becoming a free agent last week. They originally put him, they released him, put him on waivers. Any team that picked him up would have had to pay $7.5 million of his remaining salary. And of course, the reason why they did that was part of the bargaining deal with Odell to say, hey, we're going to put you up. Nobody's going to take you. You're going to clear waivers. You can go play wherever you want. The report initially and then late was that he was going to sign with New England because he has a good relationship with Bill Belichick. Following more discussion and time after he cleared waivers, it became evident that he was going to sign with Green Bay, Kansas City, or the Los Angeles Rams.
Or the Saints, you're thinking of.
I'm sorry, the Saints. And then the Rams came out of the woodwork a little bit, and then it was, everybody talked about why it would be good that he would go to Green Bay. And I don't know, I feel like that locker room could explode at any point. New Orleans doesn't seem like a very stable situation, and he wants a quarterback that's going to throw to him. Yes. So he signed with what has been dubbed by others, not by me, not by Mike, not by Craig, dubbed a possible super team because of the guys they've gone out and traded for and signed and brought in. So Beckham does that. He signs there on Thursday after saying that he was going to wait until after the Sunday games were over, which was a crock. He went and signed with the Rams and then suited up and played in the Monday Night Football game against who the heck did they play last night?
The San Francisco 49ers.
San Francisco 49ers. That's right. Because it was actually a fun game to watch. And of course,
clearly, based on your recollection of it, it sounds like
He's got the haze going on.
I got the haze, the boost of haze.
Right.
the Rams go out and essentially lay an egg as Matt Stafford with Odell Beckham Jr. now as one of his wide receivers. He did have 2 catches for 18 yards. But Matt Stafford throws 2 first quarter picks that result in touchdowns, one that was a pick 6, both by the same guy, and the 49ers win 31-10. I guess the question is, Mike, did Odell Beckham Jr. not signing with New England, was that a good decision for both parties? And 2, is he going to wreck that Rams?
No, stop. He's not going to wreck that team. That team has, if you really think about the players that have come to that locker room since McVay's been there, they've had some characters. They've had Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Donald, Aqib Talib, Jalen Ramsey, and they all made deep playoff runs. So I think that I think the McVay can hold the room. I'm not worried about that. My problem with this, with the Odell Beckham thing, is not recognizing the fact that he's a transformational talent. Now, sure, I get it. You don't like him. You think he might be a head case or a locker room pariah.
Well, he is a head case.
Whatever it might be. He is a transformational talent. And if you have a chance to get him on the cheap after waivers, maybe you make an offer. I think for a team with a strong head coach, a strong foundation, he can't hurt you. He really can't. And as long as you have that. Now, in New England, would there have been this pressure from Mac to throw to him more? I think that may have been more public than internal, because I just don't think that Bill would have gone that way. I think Bill is the man that decides what happens on the field, and you either get in line or you don't. Randy Moss, just remember, 2 years after driving into a traffic cop in a parking lot and being forgotten about in Oakland, He was here breaking Jerry Rice's all-time touchdown record for a single season. So that shows you what you can do if you have a strong head coach, and then also in that instance, the greatest quarterback of all time.
But who's to say that Beckham is the same receiver as Randy Moss? He's not. I think comparing Randy Moss to Odell Beckham Jr. is
No, not traits wise on the field. I'm saying, but if you talk about their off the field up to this point, that's how they were. I mean, that's how Randy Moss was labeled. He was shipped to Oakland because he was labeled as a pariah in the locker room, all thanks to Chris Carter in Minnesota, right? That's what happened. And then he was able to, for 3 years here, rejuvenate his career and do what he needed to do. I'm not saying, on the field stats that they're comparable. It feels to me like Odell Beckham, he wants to be the reason that a team wins. And I don't know why we hold that against him, because we in reality, that's what you should want. Now, it sounds, he oftentimes comes off as he wants to be the only reason that they win, which I get can be, kind of annoying. But I mean, that's every quarterback in the league. And every quarterback in the league wants to be the reason their team wins.
Well, but that's because the quarterback, a lot of the times, is the reason the team wins, because that's the way the game is played.
Let me ask you a question. Another rabbit hole. You think, do you honestly think that Joe Montana or Steve Young are great quarterbacks without Jerry Rice? I know.
No, I don't. But I also think that Jerry Rice was and again, I'm not comparing the two. Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver of all time.
Sure.
But Jerry Rice is a lot like a Julian Edelman. I mean, he came out of a Division II school. He was slow for the position. He had football quickness. He wasn't fast. He was quick, like an Edelman, right? And he had good hands, and he made a career of that. Do Joe Montana and Steve Young have the success without him? Absolutely not. Does Troy Aikman have the success without Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin? No. But those two teams also don't have the success without the defense. So,
but I think my overall point is that Jerry Rice had that innate thing in him that he wanted to be the reason why the team won. He wanted to be the best.
But he wasn't an asshole about it.
Sure.
But that's a big thing that comes into the game now, is that these guys, we've seen so many times, Mike, that the guys that keep their mouths shut or learn to keep their mouths shut figure out a way to be the best. They figure out a way to be great. You didn't see it. Let's bring Jacoby Myers back into this conversation, because if you want to call him a number one, Odell Beckham is the number one in the NFL. Let's talk about these two. If you want to talk about Jacoby Myers being a number one receiver, you didn't see him for the last 2 seasons or in 2019 saying, hey, man, I'm the guy. Throw me the ball in the end zone.
Yeah.
You didn't see him doing that this year when Hunter Henry was scoring 7 touchdowns. But Odell Beckham Jr. goes out, and because Baker Mayfield's not throwing to him, daddy's got to make a Twitter video and put it out there. I mean, the guy is 29 years old.
Again, why are we holding the sins of the father against him?
Because he put it out into the universe.
Odell Beckham did, or his dad did?
His dad did, but who's to say that he wasn't a part of that?
I am, because apparently you're to say that he was. So I have to be the opposite of. So, but here I'm going to say this, dude. His Terrell Owens was a class 1 asshole, but when that man broke his leg, he played in the Super Bowl and was almost the reason why.
Do you think Odell Beckham Jr. would have done the same thing?
I don't. He's never been given the opportunity to do it.
No, but Terrell Owens, while he was a showboat, well, sure.
I don't care, but
he was
care about that though.
But I'm going to make a distinction now, because that's what we're doing. He was an ass. He wasn't an asshole. Odell Beckham Jr. is an asshole.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure Jerry Rice would consider Terrell Owens an asshole. So would Jeff Garcia, Donovan McNabb, Tony Romo. The only person that wouldn't would be Ocho Cinco when they were at Cincinnati.
Jeff Garcia doesn't have a say. But besides the point, Odell Beckham Jr., while you say he's a transcendent talent?
Transformational talent.
Transformational talent. What does that mean to you?
I mean, if we were to say that the Patriots wide receiver room right now, out of a 10, based on what they have, not tight ends, wide receiver core is rated like a 6. Odell Beckham Jr. on that team makes them an 8.5 just by being there. He makes everybody's life easier just by being on the field.
Does he make everybody's life easier?
Yeah.
By being on the field, if he goes out and he has his career high in receptions, 101. He had 91 in his rookie season, 96 in his second year, and 101 in his third year. Since then, his highest is 77 in 2018, his last year with the Giants. Granted, in 2017, he was injured. In 2020, he only played half the season, and this year, he's only played in 7 games. So, he may make them an 8.5 on the field, but and I know that he's signed, so this is literally all speculation. But with his attitude and the way he essentially shot his way out of Cleveland, if you put him on this team, does he not ruin what we just talked about for the first half of this show? Does he not affect that chemistry and that style? Walking in the room basically thinking, whether it's known or not, thinking, I'm the best guy in this room. This rookie quarterback is going to throw to me. Now, regardless of what Bill Belichick says and does, that's superseding what Bill Belichick is doing.
Let me just ask you a quick question. His first 3 seasons in the league, what were the years?
14, 15, 16.
Who was the coach of the Giants?
What is it, Coughlin still?
Yeah, that's how you know. When he has that guy, and listen, Eli Manning is not a Hall. Oh, he might be a Hall of Fame. I'm not going to get into
He had won 2 Super Bowls at that point. So
sure.
When you put him on a team, Baker Mayfield has done nothing in the NFL for all intents and purposes.
Yep.
Neither has Mac Jones. So Matt Stafford technically hasn't either.
Coach, what I know based off of historical evidence to date, when he has a strong head coach and a quarterback that is a pass-first quarterback, let's just say that, I think he'll be fine. I don't think he's going to be a deterrent. Now, again, as we talked about in the show, I'm wrong a lot. I could be wrong about this.
Well, but that's the thing is you're never going to get an opportunity to be wrong about this because he's never going to be on this team.
Well, we'll figure out if he poisons the Rams or not. Like that will be evident because as good of as a locker room leader and a guy that can hold the room as McVay is, that team will let us know through the media or through, social media, whatever, when it all fell apart. And if there's a line that you can draw that says, hey, they were like 6-2 when he got here. And after he got here, they went, 2-7. That's a pretty clear indicator that he was poisonous.
Yeah. And I would agree with that. And I just think, I think it was strange that they signed him in the first place because they have a good thing going there. They have an above average tight end in Tyler Higbee. They have Cooper Kupp. They have a number 1 receiver already. So and I'm not saying that you can't bring in a 1 and have a 1 and 1A or 1A, 1B. That's fine. I mean, it happens. It's happened before and that's okay. But I can see a similar thing happening in LA that happened in Cleveland where, well, I'm not getting my targets. He keeps throwing to Higbee or Kupp. So that's where McVay needs to nip it in the bud and say, listen, you're coming in to do this. We have these guys already. You are a role player. You are Odell Beckham Jr. You're on the surface, on the whole, he is a very good receiver. I don't think he's elite. I just don't. I never thought he was. Because when you talk about that Giants team, it's so interesting you mentioned that because two things that they had were the coach and the quarterback. The Patriots have the coach. I think the Rams have the coach and the quarterback. You and I have always been pretty high on Stafford. Stafford's tough as nails, man. That guy, yep. If Mac Jones is half as tough as Matt Stafford in his career, we've already won that checkbox. But that's the thing that Odell had in New York was that he was drafted to be the guy, and he was drafted by a Hall of Fame coach that had a 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback. And it was, hey, This is what we're going to do. So now he's come out of that and said, hey, look at what I did here. I need to be able to do that again. But he hasn't done anything since he left the Giants. He hasn't done anything since he left there. So he has lost that. He has lost that ability to say, I'm the guy, give me the ball. And that's what he did in Cleveland. And he wasn't the guy.
I think I would just say, like, as my final point on this is, I think wide receivers often catch a lot of flack for being boisterous about wanting to be the reason and wanting their targets and wanting the ball, right? And I think some of it's fair, some of it's unfair. I think if you're a professional football player and you're not advocating for the ball all the time as a receiver, then like maybe some people would actually question why you're there. Like, if you don't want to be there to be the best, why the hell are you there in the first place, right? I think I think also a lot of Odell Beckham's misfortunes do fall upon the quarterback. I'm not saying he's blameless, but when you have a guy like Eli Manning, who isn't afraid to spray the ball anywhere, right? He will not be manipulated to only throw to Odell, right? It won't happen. Odell will do well. When you have someone like a Baker Mayfield or Daniel Jones, I don't think you ever played with him, but or we'll just say a Baker Mayfield, who feels like, oh, I have this new shiny toy, I'm just going to feed him the entire time. Then, like, yeah, it's going to fall apart because you can't be one-dimensional. What I would say to you, though, is if you look back at Matthew Stafford's time with the Detroit Lions, when they had a number one receiver like a Calvin Johnson, if you look at their number two, yeah, it was a drop-off, right? But it wasn't that big. The drop-off is for the third, because Matthew Stafford will throw anywhere, anytime. If you give him a slight opening, or even not, he'll try and throw somebody open. And I think that right now for the Rams, they're in this really unique, unique circumstance where they have a really strong-minded head coach who can hold a room. They have a quarterback who is fearless when he throws, and he knows what it's like to work with someone who demands the spotlight as a wide receiver. Now, Calvin Johnson was not an asshole off the field that we know of, right? We don't know that. But what we do know is when he was on the field, he demanded the ball, and he got it.
Well, he's one of the greatest receivers of all time.
Sure.
Odell Beckham Jr. is not that.
Well, Odell Beckham Jr., if he had a quarterback like Matt Stafford, as we've seen based off of his first 3 years in New York, would have been too.
Well, the Cleveland Browns should have done a better job at that and should have gotten somebody other than Baker Mayfield.
Agreed.
Maybe a Mac Jones type. But, Mike, I know we've gone on a long time here, and we're not going to get to everything we necessarily want to get to tonight. But I do know that you had some comments on the Boston Celtics that I do want to mix in to try and get to that audience as well.
Yeah, it's not going to be long. It's just an extension of I'm a Jaylen Brown fan over a Jason Tatum fan. And here's why. After a win against the Cleveland Cavaliers last night, Jason Tatum, who again shot terribly, big surprise, done that all year long as their number one person on the team, their leader. This guy just tries to shoot his way out of anything. Do you know? I'm gonna give you a stat here. There are 36 people in the league this year that have attempted more than 200 field goals. Jason Tatum's shooting percentage or field goal percentage, he's 35th. He's the second worst shooter based on volume in the league this year. His field goal percentage is 38%. His three-point percentage is 31%. Oh, and now this guy, my biggest complaint against him, all he does is try to drive to the basket to go to the line. He's shooting 76% from free throws. It's time. I'm sorry. He's not the guy. Now, he might be the guy somewhere else. I promise. I told you this 2 weeks ago. If whoever leaves between him and Jaylen Brown, they're going to be an elite NBA player for a long time, and they might win a championship. You're just going to have to suck on that, Celtics fans. And what I'm telling you is you want to get him out of here, because Jaylen Brown is a guy that you can build a team around. He's gritty. He's selfless. He will pass first instead of shoot first. And in the post-game press conference last night, they won. And Tatum's, wasn't my greatest shooting night. But, I have confidence in myself, whether I'm 7 for 30 or if I'm scoring 50 or 60, I can just shoot my way out of this. Fuck off. Don't shoot your way out of it. Pass the ball. Make other people better. Because, again, Ray said it 2 weeks ago, and he's right. They're still playing 2-on-5. And they're not going to win a championship doing that. So my answer to that, or my remedy to that situation, is to remove Jason Tatum. And I promise, it might set you back. It might set you back for a year or two. And he's going to be a great player. He's never going to win a championship here. He will never hoist that trophy as a Boston Celtic.
I will only add, I will not rebut because I agree. Kyrie Irving was a negative influence on Jason Tatum. Thank you for joining us for Missing the Point. My name's Joe Malkin. He's Mike Marcangelo. We got Craig. Craig's doing stuff. He's spinning the tables and making us sound good. Exactly. That's it. So thank you again for joining us for another episode of MTP. We'll talk to you next time.
Are you passionate about saving the planet for future generations? Do you want to learn how to do it? If yes, then you need to tune in to the Nature Back podcast. It's a talk show covering the changing world around us, from renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, circular economy, to ESG and social innovation. Don't miss this opportunity to discover how you can join the movement and make a difference. Subscribe to the Nature Back podcast today on your favorite platform and get ready to be amazed.
Hey there, fabulous souls. I'm Stephanie Baklaan.
And I'm Eden Alpert.
And we're the hosts of the brand new podcast, Unapologetically Fab.
Get ready to join us on an amazing and real journey as we dive into life after 40 and own it.
We're all about changing the narrative, leaning into who you are, and living a life by your own design.
Join us as we embrace life unapologetically and redefine success.
This is Unapologetically Fab,
an Electric Cat production.
See you there.
Electricast. Electricast.